Hello, all you coin aficionados out there, and welcome once again to the DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Today we're going to focus on two specific 1-cent coins from the 1930s from Canada. But first I want to look at the transitional coin that we have here. So on the left we can see there's a 1936 1 cent. We see this one in the middle, we're not sure what it is, and on the right we can see a 1937 1 cent. And you can see how they actually changed the 36 to the 37. Canada went from the top to the bottom. The 1 cent went from the middle to the top in 1937. And the two maple leaves on each side of the value went to the very center of the coin. And the year went over to the kind of mid left, approximately at the 8 o'clock position on a clock. Instead of being at the bottom, it went up to there. So we made a lot of changes between 1936 and 1937 to the Canadian pennies. We also made one major change on the front of the coin, and that's how you can tell what this coin is, or within a range what this coin is. So we know on the front of this coin we have George the Fifth, George the Sixth. I just looked at it and read it wrong. We have George the Sixth, and George the Sixth became king in 1936 after his father died. And so this is the first year, 1937 was the first year of the George the Sixth 1 pennies or 1 cents. And in this case, we know that that George the Sixth, this particular one says George the Sixth, by the grace of God, King and Emperor of India. So we know that India achieved its independence in 1947, so we know this coin can only have been made between 1937 and 1947. So we can identify it within about 10 years just by looking at the front of it. So let's look at the front of the 1936, and there we go. So we know George the Fifth died in 1936, and on this 1936 coin, this is the last one that will have his image on it. In 37, we moved over to the new one, and again, this one says George V, by the grace of God, King and Emperor of India, and that's in Latin. So let's get George V out of the way. Let's turn this over, and we'll see this one's a 1937 also. So we have two 1937, so let's just leave them right here and take a look at them and go over the different characteristics of the coin. So again, when we look at it, we have a small inner bead around the rim. We have George the Sixth facing left in essentially the first year of his reign as king. And when we look at the side of the coin, we see that it's smooth. We don't have to flip this one over, but if we did, we want to flip it side to side to get the coin, because the alignment is both sides face up. So on the back or reverse of the coin, we see 1 cent at the top. The two maple leaves now are attached to a branch in the center of the coin. In 1937, at about the 8 o'clock position on the clock, Canada at the bottom, and then here on the side we see the initials of the engraver, and that was George Kruger Gray. These coins are made of bronze, and so that means that they are copper, tin, and zinc coins. These particular coins are they changed the makeup of the coins in 1943. So the pre-1943 coins from 37 to 42 are 95.5% copper, 0.3% tin, and 0.15% zinc. And they are both 3.24 grams in weight, 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and 1.65 millimeters in thickness. Now, one of the other things that's important to note that happened in 1937 was that that is the year that Hitler and the Nazi army invaded Poland. So as we go forward with these coins from Canada, we'll see that they certain things will change in the coins. Maybe the mint mark will change, or the makeup of the coins will change in the middle of the war. This particular coin, there were 10 million of these made. It's probably worth about $1 in the condition that we're looking at right here, maybe a little bit more. And this, because this was a transitional year of production, they weren't able to ramp up and get as much done. So what happens is when a new king, well, Canada was part, the Dominion of Canada was part of Britain, and so when the king changed in Britain, they had to change the coins in Canada. And that sometimes takes a long while because you have to have a new engraving, you have to get it over to the mint, they have to make the dies, and they have to start producing the coins. So what you see sometimes, and what we saw in this case, was a 1936 coin with King George V on it. They overproduced that coin because they knew they were going to have to transition. And the 1937 coin, they didn't get as many made as they usually make. So that's a relatively collectible coin. The 1937, there were 10,090,231 of these made. All right, that's all we have for today from the DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Feel free to subscribe to our coin channel and to put a comment in the comment section if there's any videos you'd like us to do, or if you have anything to say about this video, or maybe we did something wrong or something right. Feel free to put that in the comment section. Thanks again from DC Coin World International Coin Channel.